really eager to look for that all-in combo. So I mean, the Monkey, obviously, Wukong is one of the highest priority picks at the moment. But in terms of his pure skirmishing power with that Nautilus, definitely nothing to squeeze at. I think that the backline access from this composition puts Dent on a scary position, even with the Ezra upgraded, because in return, it looks like the rest of Burning Core, they're wanting to walk forwards as well.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that in the Hawks Rascal Jester game earlier, right? It was Sol on the Jinx, who a little bit less safety than the Ezreal, but did find that if you were able to find that initial pick onto the AD carry, something like a Kai'Sa is so good at following up and capitalizing on those picks that you could take out one member of Burning Core immediately, and then maybe you can play out the rest of the game. We are going to be jumping onto the Rift now for the third game of the LJL 2022 Summer Split. CGA facing off against Burning Core.
God, a little bit of goosebumps there. Quite excited. And looks like no real level 1 things happening at the moment. One of the things we've seen become quite a default in the meta right now is supports early warding into their respective top side and bot side middle brushes to stop any wave control access here. Doesn't end up happening because it looks like, I think, CJ giving a little bit of respect to quite an aggressive level 1 comp from Burning Core.
Yeah, I mean, Leona's good for finding picks, and Ray Farkey can go for hookshot wall dive, Dice can start charm. It's not really the abilities that you want to be starting on these champions, but if you're able to secure a first blood, then it's kind of worth.
Doesn't really matter, does it? Kassin doing the blue buff leashless as well, which I think is really important, especially as it looks like he's trying to match Flawless. They want to meet in the bot side if possible. I'm assuming Kassin wants to contest that, and going leashless means that Burning Core have no actual info on where he started. Oh, big hook
from Nema onto Dent. Not enjoying his first couple of minutes in the LGL. And I like that from Nema, because I think last split we did have a few issues with this guy. He wasn't really gelling with Hybrid as much as he would have liked to, especially in the early parts of the split. Was talking about how Hybrid loves to play a bit more of an aggressive style, and Honey, who was Nema's previous AD carry, definitely not a player that I would associate that with.
No, and even then, even with that playstyle from Hybrid, it seems like they found at the end of the split an in-between for these players, because Hybrid at the end of the split had stats very high reaching for his AD carry peers. We saw high CS across the board from him, as well as just this team love to pump gold into this player. Let's see if they try and continue that in Summer Split now as same comp, you know, Nema's on the same champions as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they had the exact same goals.
Yeah, but on the other side for Burning Core, this man in the mid lane, Dice, is the player that I really want to watch. I know that Flawless does get a lot of plaudits, but I think that a lot of that is Dice affording him space. One of these Korean mid laners who came in at the start of the year and really has put his stamp on the region.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like Flawless and Dice were the big synergistic combo in how Burning Core were able to find success in the early and latter parts of last split, especially with that Yasuo Diana combo that we saw them pump out a couple of times. Dice once again on a pseudo initiator, and even from last split, even from the play that he was able to find and maybe miss synergy between support, that's changed now. That gives so much more opportunity, especially if he's able to get on map and pair up with Dice. We maybe won't see the same flubs once mid game hits that we saw from Burning Core last split.
Maybe not, as we did just see a small piece of interaction between the two junglers there. Kassin able to secure that Rift Herald because of the bot lane shove achieved by Hybrid and Nema. The Nautilus can roam up just a little bit, and Flawless, he's not going to overstep. He's not going to make any of these risky plays too early on the Graves when he wants to be farming and scaling up.
Taking a little bit of a look into the future, because we see Kassin actually getting a little bit of a quicker clear, combined with that Wind Cyclone being such a strong skirmishing tool around level 6, and Nap's very high presence within top lane within the early levels. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kassin try and do a reset and maybe start a bot to top side and be early on in top side, get some vision around the tower, because I'm assuming that's where their first eyes are going to be set on.
Yeah, we have seen the Herald as an objective, like, rise in power level. I feel like early gold is just so much more impactful when these dives sort of post 8 minutes are a lot harder to achieve, and everyone's just a little bit tankier.
Yeah, even with the changes in 12.11, it's still a very dangerous game to be diving, especially looking at the players from Burning Core. I mean, from both sides of the spectrum, these champions are quite difficult to be diving by yourself.
Yeah, Camille with that Hextech ultimatum can really turn things around.
Very scary.
The Ahri has so much mobility once she gets to level 6 as well.
Just coming back to bot lane now, helped set up a little bit of vision in this river, and we do see Drake spawning in under a minute. I'm actually wondering whether that's going to be contested at all between these two teams. We see both junglers now going to be hopefully pathing towards this bot side. I don't know how this next 2 minutes is going to end up going.
Well, it's risky because Flawless is yet to take it back. Has sort of done a little bit of a reverse clear. Is going to be heading back to the fountain now, as Kasim was obviously able to get on map a little bit earlier. Is going to be the Iron Spike Whip, actually, so potentially a stride breaker coming out from the Graves.
Actually, that's something I can talk about. There's been a bit of gore drinker Graves recently. People have been opting into this build as it's coming back again. People are still doing it, are still trying to find ways to hedge it in. I don't know how to feel about it. I've seen some really good play from it, but also the lack of damage that a champion can have on that build can really diminish its presence within mid game. But I mean, looking at the rest of the damage on the board, you have so much flat damage. If it's just getting that damage applied to the enemy team, maybe going Gore Drinker will help that. Anyway, Drake now first getting picked up by CGA, especially considering the fact that they, I guess with this Kai'Sa Nautilus lane, the amount of pressure that this lane has in terms of kill threat, they just have to give it up from Burning Core.
Well, and taking it at this sort of 6-minute mark means that when that Herald spawns in a couple minutes, as Nema doing a bit of a Spider-Man impression there, hooking onto the wall. When that Herald does spawn in about 90 seconds now, because of the shove that CGA are getting in this bot side, they're going to be the ones that can rotate up quicker and maybe double dip on these early game objectives. Yeah,
that's true. Nema, notoriously last season, seemed to remain quite hedged in this lane with Hybrid. With Kasin on this Wukong, with the level 6 active, hoping that they can find a wave shove and get Nema on the map. Saying that, they're looking for a fight in the boss side though.
Yeah, the Eclipse from Yuhi, though, that W on the Leona provides so much tankiness. Doesn't even need to run the Aftershock, as that Everfrost is going to be the keystone, something that has really sort of risen to the top of priority in terms of support keystones over the last sort of 6 months or so.
Yeah. And with this Kai'Sa Nautilus lane as well, now that we've seen it for the second time just today alone, I am quite excited to see how much priority is put on these two champions. Kai'Sa's hovering in the lower levels of AD priority at the moment. Obviously, Lucian really has taken a firm grasp of AD meta at the moment, especially with that Nami combination. I'm surprised, I'm excited to see if these bans continue the way they are. These bot lanes are going to continue opting in for more aggressive lanes like this, because this is something I want to see from these players. I was talking earlier to you about seeing something like the Kalista from bot side as well, something more aggressive, especially if these laners, especially players like Hybrid, as you've said, one of the higher ADs on our list, even if CJ themselves aren't perhaps hitting top 4. Hybrid, a very strong player. I'd love to see champions like this piloted more often, because if you're able to pilot them correctly and get into that mid game with an advantage, it can snowball so quickly.
Just sort of like fundamentally entertaining champions. I'd much rather watch like a Kai'Sa or Kalista diving in, or maybe the Leona as well, as Yuhi exhausted, forcing double flashes, loads of summoners burnt by CGA. No one falling down just yet though, but that means that if they want to contest this Herald, they will be disadvantaged.
The Lulian see the bubbles as well as the game freezes up for just a moment.
I think Kaito looking to get some poke damage down onto Dent. Not sure if this is just on our end. Hopefully we can get that fixed up fairly soon. That was a pretty decent chunk onto the Burning Core AD carries. Another bubble is going to be thrown out and land. CGA playing this quite patiently, as there goes the hook landing onto Dice from Nema, but he's taken out immediately. It's a 1-for-1. The first bug goes to Burning Core, though. Kasin going to be dropping low, dropping down, as Ray Farkey trades himself in. Dies Hybrid to pick up the third kill of the game for Crest Gaming at the flash over the wall, but Kaito can follow with the damage. Undertow! Nap with 4 for CGA. They take the fight.
What a fantastic fight from CGA. It's a synergistic point. They stance slowly and securely, using Zoe to create HP advantage, take the fight afterwards. Hybrid's looking for the fight in return, though. Actually manages to get away as well. Yes, big win for CGA as they pick up a 3-for-1, I think that was. And even though they don't secure the Herald, that's a nice lump of gold going into their pocket. We're going to get the replay here and just look at Kaito's positioning here. Chunking out Dent right at the start of the fight. Remember, this Ezreal's so squishy against this kind of a comp. Combine that with the bubble and then the slow play from this comp. Very, very smart. big hook onto Dice really secures this win for them, because even though Burning Core managed to find a bit of return damage here, you can see they pick off Nap there, as well as this Hextech Ultimatum coming in to pick off Kassin. Ultimately picking up these key DPS members means there's nobody there to clean up Kaito, to clean up Hybrid, and they can get a very clean 4 for 2.
This blind undertow.
Without vision as well.
That's very, very nice. That's very, very nice. I did see him fall asleep, so maybe a little bit easier than otherwise. But a 1 fight for CGA in the early game. 2-0-2 now on Kaito. Zoe has already got those Sork shoes in pocket, and looks like Kassin will be able to take down that Herald. Nappy might be under a little bit of fire here.
As Ragnarok very soon. And with the changes to Olaf, he keeps the MR and armor that he gets from his Ragnarok, drawing the ultimate. So it's a very risky dive they're looking for here. We already talked about scary dives in the early game.
Gonna be close. He's starting the primary tank. Actually, Flawless is taking it, and Nap just continues to heal up! Oh. Recklessly swinging down at the members of Burning Core, getting a 1v3 in the dive.
It's such a big win. Even if he dies there, CJ have the Herald. They get to use it in top side. On top of that, he lives, pulls a kill, and first turret goes over to only Hybrid and Kassin. The players we saw is not only the early game initiators, but also the carries for this team. CJ have set themselves up fantastically now, as they've secured a 3k gold lead only 10 minutes into the game.
And that is absolutely perfect. It's exactly what we want from CGA, a team who can have their struggles a little bit in the early game, fall to disadvantages. It's something that they've had as a problem in the past, but also just historically as a team, this is much better from them. And the fact that they're doing it against Burning Core, who I think a lot of people have got pegged as one of their closest rivals this split, is great, great stuff.
And even though we're talking about this immediately, we're going to have to probably see some setup coming in again, because second Drake's now spawned. It's Hextech as well, so people are very eager to get this single Drake stacked on top of them. Burning Core have the advantage right now. All their vision is held on this side. Double red trinket coming out too. DJ seem to be, I think, giving up the space for it.
Yeah, don't want to blindly run into a bad scenario, and yeah, like you were talking about the vision control
face checker charm.
Core. Just a little bit, you don't want to face check a charm, or a hook shot, or just Leona in general. So I think intelligent play does mean that Burning Core are going to be able to get a little bit back, but they're going to need more if this early game is going to get fixed for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It delays the soul that CGA could potentially be looking for by 5 minutes or so, or I guess 10 minutes technically. But CJ still are in the lead at the moment. You can see finally now Mythic's picked up for the majority of members. Kraken coming in for Hybrid, so we're locked into that build now, combined with a Stride Breaker on the Olaf. Pretty standard so far. It's really going to be what Kaito opts into here, probably a Ludens as well.
Yeah. You're really focused with this composition of getting that initial pick, of just completely 100 to zeroing someone. And because Burning Core don't really have a frontline outside of Yuhi, pretty much anyone that you do get that catch onto can be exploded.
Yeah, especially within mid-game, because Yuhi's defensive abilities are definitely going to fall off, as you can see his gold income not as high as other players, and Ray Farkey doesn't really hit that 3k HP mark until 2 or 3 items, especially if he's opting into that Ravenous third.
He may be opting into killing Kaito, though, as CJ's mid laner cheating towards the bottom half of the map, because that's where Kassin is, that's where his jungler is, that's where the safety is. But if he oversteps with the power star, he could get punished, as Ray Farkey is going to come through with a Hextech Ultimatum. Cyclone to buy some time, but it is not enough. And I think the Monkey may be going down as well. Kassin with the second charge, able to get back under his tower, but that's a bit better from Burning Core.
Yeah, Kassin playing quite smart there to hover Kaito, but I guess he just didn't expect 3 members to be there. Neither did Kaito. Burning Core playing fantastically around the vision just to get a small pick off, but definitely a pick off of value. And you get to see it again here. You can see Kaito are just outside of his flash range as he gets engaged upon here. So he can't flash outside of that Hextech Ultimatum. Big pickup by producers to point that out.
Thank you very much. Big fan of production staff, both on our broadcast and for the Japanese broadcast. Love those guys, making sure that everything gets working. But it does mean that that gold lead that CJ were able to secure has closed a little bit as we hit the 14-minute mark, and the plates fall off the towers.
Yeah, and we get up access to double teleport as well. And we're seeing 4 teleport, or 2 teleports on each side, I guess I should say. So side lane's going to be very, very important coming into this, because this is really where Camille actually starts to get a little bit of space in this lane. Once this Divine Sundra's picked up, Camille, notorious scaling power, obviously, but with every item, we're going to be keeping a check on how she's able to handle this Olaf, as this is a relatively new pick to enter the meta. The rework did a really, really good job of solidifying this champion as a, I guess, making him more consistent but also inconsistent at the same time with how his ulti usage ends up happening. I think into the combo it's been drafted into, though, he's always got targets to hit, which just means that Ragnarok's going to last a long time in some of these fights.
Yeah, fundamentally Olaf is back, and that's kind of the long and short of a lot of the changes. CGA getting a small invade onto the bot side jungle of Burning Claws. He's actually going to flash forward, pop the depth charge as well. They're going for the one-shot onto Flawless, but it's not going to happen. Kassin still going forward with the Cyclone, but is going to be forced to go back as Yuhi engaging on the other side. TP coming through, but look at Nap on the back line, going insane, but there's too many people to deal with. Rayfaki is dead, the Olaf is alive, and Kaito's going forward. The Zoe taken low, though, 20% HP, as another hook lands from Nap, and Kassin is the beneficiary.
It almost looked like Barnacle were able to turn that around there. Flawless lasting so long with this Gore Drinker and this Kindle Gem, this hybrid build coming in for him, but it wasn't enough, as Nab did a fantastic job. Even though he fell very low in that fight there, he managed to split apart Burning Claw's remaining members, and it gave CGA the time to find that fight. Now, off at the back of that, it looks like they may be able to pick up the turret within bot side and slowly and further secure this gold lead here. So yeah, as we watch this replay, keep eyes on Nap as he manages to find a fantastic flank on this to really take apart the carries from Burning Claw's side.
And honestly, I was worried for CJ here. I thought they'd gone for an overstep, but the fact that Nap can just walk in, level 10, only 1 item on the Olaf, and survive this long when fighting basically 3 members of Burning Core is incredible stuff. And then the follow-up that comes through from CGA, recognizing they can still get stuff from this fight, securing another kill for Cassin. They then converted that into that bot lane tower. They're going to take the Herald as well. This is brilliant stuff to see.
Yeah, these kind of more macro-orientated fights are stuff we're only starting to see pop up because of durability patch there. Space where Nap can walk in and very clearly assess how much damage he's going to take in a fight, as well as Kaito doing the same thing at the tail end there, jumping towards Yuhi to secure that kill for his team. Stuff we wouldn't have seen beforehand because they would have just been blown up.
Flawless playing with fire a little bit there. And I like that you highlighted Kaito, because so far this game, he's been playing pretty damn well. He was a player in Spring who I think we often criticized, joking about him playing weak side in mid lane, because whilst he wasn't die a lot, didn't really generate too much pressure, but he's been going forward with these paddle stars, catching a lot of these trouble bubbles, and that's buying a lot of the space that CJ need to go for these sorts of plays.
Yeah, he was a bit of a question mark, because we were thinking about how, especially with his reliance on Ryze last season, as well as the Syndra, both champions of which have fallen off quite significantly within the meta, and this will be something that we talk about in our next matchup as well. We were wondering what he had left available. Now that Zoe was something he put out a couple of times last split and looked pretty okay on, and it seems like that continues here. A pretty good performance from him so far. It's really when this mid game hits for CJ where we start to see the flaws of this team, especially Nema and Kaito, were the big bleeding points once mid game hits and once they have to do their own roles in the team. And specifically Nema, that's setting up this vision consistently. I think Burning Core, even through this deficit in gold, have managed to have a pretty firm grasp on the vision. Now that CGA are hitting this mid game and these 2 side lane turrets have been unlocked, we really want to see Nema get on map and consistently pair up with Kassin and get vision on board in more aggressive positions so that they can look to unlock this mid lane turret, especially with a comp that I think can quite easily look for a siege. If they find an individual member, look for a pick as well.
Oh, did you see the gold difference between the AD carries on that graphic?
I wasn't paying attention.
3k lead for Hybrid. That's an entire damn item. Kraken Slayer and Phantom Dancer already completed on the Kaiser, and has got that serrated Dirk in his pocket as well. Shelly going to be summoned in the mid lane. Won't be able to take out this tower, but it does get a fair chunk.
Yeah, getting that below half HP, but very difficult to be walking through that, especially if all the members of Burning Core are grouped up towards this mid lane. It's very difficult for CJ to really look for something with a lower ranged AD like the Kaiser here. So it's going to be up to CGA to pull those members apart, string them apart, leave Dent in mid lane by themselves, or Dice, and then pressure off of that.
Dice is overstepping a little bit there. Nautilus hitbox. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like there were some balance changes that came in like in the previous 15 seconds. I'm pretty sure that hits on live service. But, never not quite able to find the engage.
And now we see a return to neutral once again, and CJ finally, you can see this vision set up within this river. They have a pretty safe hold, which means that Ray Farkey is going to want to look for these flanks. They're going to spot him out pretty early on, but CJ seem a little bit stuck at the moment. There's not really much they can do outside of unlock this mid lane turret. I guess they'll be playing for next Drake and potentially the Soul.
Yeah, they're winning the fights, and there's nothing really that Burning Core need to fight them over at the moment. So CJ don't have really a way to push forward as much. I do agree with you. Once we start seeing the next Drake, maybe this Baron, considering how fed Hybrid is, maybe could start that one up a little bit earlier. As Kaito actually finding damage onto Dice, really showing mastery of this Zoe pick. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm hoping we don't get a repeat of last game. I hope Baron eagerness is a little bit more tempered.
Why would you even say that, Tom?
I don't want to curse the broadcast. It's fine. I didn't say anything. We just resumed the game as if I said nothing.
Perfect stuff. that next Drake spawning in 2 minutes. CGA already got 2 in their pocket, I believe, so that would be soul point for them, which gives you a lot more angles to play. And I really like the Ocean Rift because it spawns all of these bushes, which means that establishing this vision is a little bit harder because you've got a lot more stuff to face check.
And I hope CJ keep up this pressure, as Hybrid's by himself in top side could be in a very tricky position, but CJ going to move back down. Yeah, CJ are playing on a timer in my mind, as Flawless dashes very aggressively.
Not going to be punished too much as Kaito slowed down there. We are getting a flank TP. We are going for this fight as Kasin is able to get onto the backline, onto Dent, and Yuhi is dead. I said that a load last split, and I might say it some more this split. Flawless taken low, but it's the Nautilus who's been traded back. Oh my god! Hybrid is unreal.
What a wash from CGA there. That slow fight, remember, Burning Core opted into that fight. There was a dance for an extended period of time. I just sat back and I was like, there's no way this fight's going to happen there. Yuhi walks up slowly and gets punished for doing so. Fantastic from CJ to really understand that actually they can take that fight there. This is the comp with the lead. And yeah, you get to see it showed here. So CGA doing their best to get some aggressive vision around this Baron, because they know that's where they're going to be opting into if they get a fight within the next 5 minutes. And Flawless and Yuhi just seem to lack a little bit of respect to how CGA can stance for this fight. You can see Yuhi slowly walking up. They're trying to find picks onto Hybrid, but Nema does a fantastic job of immediately dropping that depth charge, disrupting Yuhi, and in turn that gives so much space for Kasin to disrupt the rest of the team, and they just play off of that.
I think the key thing that really encapsulate how a lot of that fight went for Burning Core was how Dent was forced to position. He was on one side of the wall, then he had to jump over, and then Kasin gets on top of it and he has to go the other way. 1.4k damage compared to Hybrid's 4.6 really illustrates the difference between these two AD carries at the moment. Saying that though, Burning Core have secured position around this Ocean Drake, and CGA are looking to fight them for it. Nap very far forward, but Hybrid just taking towers in the mid.
Yeah, really smart from CJ. They get to slow play. They have the Zoe. They have the enablers for this comp within mid game. Burning Core have to walk out in fear of losing potentially another fight, especially with the Baron active at the moment. That sets up CJ very nicely for this Ocean Soul as well. They're on soul point now. It's really up to them to see what remaining pickups they can find with this kind of Baron. Economy Baron, as RMC has told me many times.
It's a good term. Getting some gold on maybe some people that aren't Hybrid, although I'm sure that he'd fancy a couple more. These bubble angles from Kaito are so
very smart.
They're very smart. They're very obscure. They're really hard for Burning Core to track, and it's opening up more of this space. CJ now taking down this bottom inner tower, their first tier 2 of the game, and I imagine the next are going to be falling pretty soon.
Yeah, and the downsides of Burning Core's comp is that the wave clear is a little bit limited in these siege scenarios. The physical wave clear comes mostly through Flawless, but he's having to maintain CS on the camps. The fight begins.
And Dent is dead. Yuhi will fall as well. The tower dropped down. Yes, Nema's going to be traded over, but it's still a 4v3 in favor of CJ with a Baron for another 45 seconds. They could look for this mid lane tower. I Dicey does land a charm onto Nap, and this wave is slowly being cleared out. The siege, not quite there.
And look, once again, they trade 1 for 1. They unlock a turret, and then they go, okay, that's fine. That's enough for us. They're going to get their resets in now because they're probably sitting on a plentiful amount of gold, and they know not to overextend that lead. So really slow inflation for CGA, even though they know that they're playing against a scaling comp.
And what was it? It was a bubble from Kaito that started this all off.
Yep. And this is the thing with these kinds of, as you get to see Burning Core absolutely blown up here. This is the thing with these bubbles that Kaito's been blowing out consistently and hitting these different members of Burning Core, whilst he's hitting a few members who don't get punished for it. So the fact that he's hitting them consistently creates space for his team, and eventually it can lead to plays just like that one.
And the thing that we've always had this discussion with CGA is that individually, you can have performances that are of the sort of top tier players. Like obviously Hybrid has been in that conversation ever since he joined the team, but Cassina's had top 3 jungle performances. Nema looked amazing last summer, and he still had a couple of those good performances in spring. Nap also good, and Kaito was the sort of one player who he looked at going, you're kind of a little bit out of place, kind of in this lower echelon of mid laners. I don't want to get too excited too soon, Oak, but if this performance is anything to go by, we may be looking at a different man in the mid lane.
Well, I've never heard of somebody getting predictions in day 1 and then them turning on their head. That's never happened before. So I think you're in the clear. I think we're all good here. Anyway, CGA now, once again, setting themselves up for this Baron. Seems to be pretty similar to last time. I hope Burning Core don't fall into the same pits as before. Now, second items are coming for Burning Core, and with each item pickup that we see, this comp spikes really heavily because Ezreal now on this prolific mid-game spike that we know so well. Oh, Dicey, what are you doing?
Yeah, you can't stand there, mate. Goes into the Zhonya's, but he's just dead. And now Rayfaki going to be rooted up. TP's going to come through, and CJ want this fight! Sin going in with a Cyclone, already a double, a triple! Secured for Hybrid as Nap. It's just going to back away. It's that aggression, but there's no oversteps.
And immediately CJ know exactly what they're looking for next. They're going to pick up this top lane turret as well. And with no other objectives available, I'm assuming they'll probably just continue to set up the vision, clear out vision, and clear out this jungle as well. This limitation, how much Burning Core's income, how much they can find through CS and jungle creeps is so important to restricting their scaling opportunities. And CJ continue to flexing that here.
Yeah, this Camille, this Graves have got a long time before they're going to be useful. And we saw how impactful just getting a lot of this pressure can be. Dice is just walking through his own jungle, but you can't do that at this stage of the game.
Yeah, a little bit confusing. It seems like Burning Core are just a little bit disorganized at the moment. We're hoping that they pick up in terms of communication, because that's a big flub coming up from especially one of Burning Core's standard members. We don't really expect to make those kinds of mistakes.
No, Dice is Mr. Consistent. He's the Victor player, which if that does not scream Mr. Consistent, I don't know what does. A rare overstep from him, and CJ in the right place to punish. And now we're in a map state where Ocean Soul spawning in 35 seconds, Baron spawning in 20, Burning Core a force-to-face checker. That's a bad time! Rayfaki knocked into the air and knocked into the grave as Hybrid dives forward. Another kill secured. It's just too easy for CGA as Dice is the last one left alive.
And Hybrid does his job to perfection. The killer instinct coming in to clutch out the remaining kills there. And he flashes over the wall to secure DPS on the backline and then cleanses out. Very well played from Hybrid and from the rest of the team. I would be surprised to see this game taken right here.
Yeah, I thought that 12.11 was meant to be slower. CGA did not get the memo! Nema flashing forward as Dice gets rolled! In the first game of Summer Split, CGA take the dub.
What a dominant performance from this team. I was expecting this to be far, far closer, especially considering the fact that Burning Core opted into a comp I would consider much more meta at the moment.